Good evening, everybody. We are just starting our second in a series of virtual chats for the Nevada Digital Learning Collaborative, the Nevada group of digital engineers who is helping support educators and parents from around the state as we try to navigate all the uncertainty and everything new surrounding online, blended, in-person schooling that includes some type of online format, everything that has to do with what we're experiencing because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we will hear from education leaders from around the state on how parents can help support their child's endeavor to build relationships in a virtual learning environment. That is our topic of the month with the Nevada DLC. We've got educators from Southern Nevada as well as Northern and Northwestern Nevada. So I will let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves. Can we start off? Did I introduce myself? I am Jordana McCudden. I always forget that. I am this is my 21st year as an educator in the Clark County School District. Currently, I work with the EL division as a project facilitator. I have worked in elementary and middle school, and I have taught several different subjects. So I've been around the block a little bit, and I'll just call you guys out and go ahead and introduce yourselves. Connie, let's start with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Connie Thompson, and I work for the Northeastern Nevada Regional Professional Development Program, and we serve 6 counties. And I am based in Elko. And what else do you want me to tell?
Can you explain what that role is?
Okay, so it's difficult to explain actually, but we support teachers in the 6 different counties with ongoing professional development, whatever that may be, what their needs are right now. Obviously, it's blended learning. So we serve on request and just try to support teachers because it is a tough job.
Absolutely, thank you. Brad.
Hi, I'm Brad Evans. I am an English learner and assessment coordinator for Odyssey Charter School District. We are a public charter K through 12 here in Las Vegas. This is also my 21st year in education, but it's been split between Washington, D.C., Memphis, France, Canada, and Las Vegas.
Wow. Lashawn.
Yeah, so I'm Lashawn Limbrick. I am a school counselor here in the Clark County School District, heading into my 4th year. I'm also a product of the Clark County School District, K through 12. And so I'm very busy. So I'm a dad, school counselor. I'm also a doctoral candidate. I should be receiving my doctorate this year in May. And then I also am an adjunct instructor at 2 Nevada institutions.
Fantastic. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Cabral. I'm very new to the county. I just joined about 1.5 years ago. So I don't have as much experience with the county as some of my colleagues do. But I've been in education for 8 years. Before the county, I worked at a charter school called Andre Agassi College Prep Academy. And currently I am the student success facilitator / dean at Ed Von Tobel Middle School.
And Deanne.
Hi, I'm Denise Hicks. I am currently a 3rd grade teacher in Washoe County. I actually teach out in Fernley, Wadsworth area. I am at I'm on a reservation school out there. We have about 120 students currently. This will be my 28th year teaching, and I started in Elko over there with Connie, and I was 21 years in the same building. I've taught kindergarten through 6th grade, and I've also been out of the classroom as an instructional coach for 5 years.
I love how diverse our panel is, and I really think that helps give everybody who might be listening some really great perspective on all the complications that even normally surround teaching and educating our students and supporting them through their education. but especially in these times. So thank you all so much for being here. Let me jump right in with some questions for you guys. And please feel free just to jump in and answer at will. So with all the changes this year, and I know it's different throughout the state, we've got some counties that are 100% online, some counties that are hybrid, and Deanne, correct me if I'm wrong, Washoe has like some of their kids are 100% online, some of your kids are hybrid, so even within districts, it's not all seamless, and then other districts might even be completely in person, so I know we're all over the gamut. How are schools preparing to support families as they work too? And here's our big topic this evening is building relationships. So how are schools preparing to help families build relationships and develop a strong school climate given what school looks like this year?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're a small school. So when I'm talking about this perspective, I'm talking about it from a very small school. However, no, Washoe County has a huge focus on SEL. A lot of our conversations have been about how do we reach out to families at the beginning of the year? How do we set expectations so that they understand we are multiple different levels. You're right, Jordana. Elementary school is 100% in person, but that does not mean that every student is in a classroom every day, because we have schools that are too large for that with the social distancing. So even within the school, kids may not be in a classroom for one. It's kind of like each school's different, like an A-B day. Middle school and high school are every other day. All students have been offered the option of distance learning. All students have also were offered the option of applying to the online virtual academy. So I think for us, our biggest conversation, because we have kids in multiple different learning environments at this point, we talked a lot about at the beginning, how do we reach out to families? How do we make those phone calls? How do we start to build relationships with new kids and new families and new faces, and what will that look like? I know teachers, we're really good at building relationships with kids, and reaching out to the families hasn't always been about doing positive stuff. Sometimes we're only reaching out when we're looking for help. So I know teachers now, there's kind of a change in that we're looking for families to be partners with us and to help us to understand what's going to be best for their families depending upon the learning environment that they have chosen.
So I'll speak. So I'm at Odyssey Public Charter, and we have been a blended environment since, I believe, 1996. So the entire concept of our school is there's an online component and an in-class component. Typically, students come in high school 4 hours a week, and then the elementary school teachers actually go to the students' homes and visit with the families a few hours a week. And so for us, our families are more accustomed to being online. This semester, we are entirely online. But one of the emphasis that we talk about pedagogy there is the importance of building community before getting into curriculum. So the first assignments are getting to know you. Why is the topic important? Why is it interesting? Show me something from your life that you're proud of, whether it be a video, a clip, a quiz. And I think starting there is kind of a natural starting point. I think especially now people are really focused on the human factor. And I think the kind of practices that we do evolve like all best practices do. And what's interesting is I'm seeing those same practices that have been established for decades emerging at schools that are starting this online. So there's really kind of a convergence of ideas on what's successful in this environment.
I guess I can chime in. Down here in Clark County School District, so we're fully distance ed until further notice. And so with that, I think there is a huge emphasis on social emotional learning and really, kind of reiterating some of the things that Brad and Deanne had said, just about connecting with families, finding unique ways to connect with families, getting to know our students, inviting our families as partners in with us. We're trying to accomplish this together. I think that this is very new and different for everyone, for educators, for students, for families, and really just trying to work together. I know at our school, really just trying to connect with our families through social media is going to be huge this year. So email, sending parent links through Facebook, through Instagram, and then our students are still getting the live instruction piece. So students are receiving live instruction from their teachers, and then students are also engaging in independent work on their own. But I think it's huge for students and families to know that their teachers are available, wraparound services are available, school counselors are available, school social workers are available. And so there's all of these necessary people available that aren't always classroom teachers. And so we're really focusing on the social, emotional well-being of our students during this time, because I think that we haven't really had a lot of, we haven't heard the voices of our students and how they're feeling about distance education. We've been hearing a lot about how educators are coping with distance education and how parents are having to deal with distance education. But I think that our students, this is very different from that for them. And, depending on the level, depending if they're at elementary versus high school, their expectations of school have had to shift. And so just really being there for our students. And so a unique thing that we're doing at our school is we're going to be doing these weekly drop-in video Google Meet sessions with students to just kind of talk about, how are you doing, like a wellness check, what do you need help with? How can we help you? And getting those wraparound services, connected, like really working together.
I think that's great. And I will say personally that my I've got a fifth grader and a sixth grader, and then I've also got a high school kid, but my two younger ones started at Odyssey this week. And my daughter, who is 9 years old, really had a breakdown today. And I'm like, what's going on? I know it's the stress of adjusting, but she said, I miss my friends. I miss going into school. And it really just all kind of hit her. And you're so right in touching upon the social emotional aspect of it, because as teachers, we get very consumed with, what do we need to do? It's so new for us. It's scary for us. We're relearning everything, but our kids are going through the same thing. And I love that. And Brad, you hit on it too, that it's really about asking them, how are you doing right now? Getting to know them, really building that community it's always been important as a teacher. It's natural for us in the classrooms when we see them and they come into our classrooms. But more than ever, it's important now to really check in with them like that, because this is all very new for all of them too. So, and just like for all the ages. So I love that you guys brought that up. And Michelle, did you want to jump in before I asked a different question?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what was just said. I've been working a lot with our social worker and our counselors, and wellness checks are kind of at the top of our list. That's more important, just so the students can come to a safe environment where they can, there's a lot of things that they might be struggling with that they don't have an outlet for. They don't know how to speak to an adult. They don't have an adult at home to speak to. They don't really know how to reach out to their teachers. So we've created a house system. So our school of 1,200 now is like a 200 kind of, just like a house within a school within a school, to make it much smaller. And within the house system, the teachers are thinking about different ways that they can, wellness checks should happen daily, weekly, monthly, it should happen all the time. And just giving the students a platform for them to, voice what they're going through. you know, and so, I mean, that's one part. And the other part is also supporting the teachers. The more comfortable the teachers are with this new distance learning, the more tools they know that they have, the more adept they are using those tools, we'll be able to reach our students better. So like, I've been really just taking on like a role of just support, you know, it's like customer service, like how can I help you? Like, what do you need, you know? But teachers working in those houses, those wellness checks, and then supporting the teachers so they can use their tools better.
That's fantastic. So there's a wealth of information right here in this Zoom meeting, and a lot of experience. And so I'm really curious for you guys, how are you feeling that your roles, each of you guys have different roles. How are those roles? How are your daily duties? How has your job shifted in this new environment?
Boy, everything has changed for everybody, right? You know, we are transitioning and trying to meet the different needs of districts who are doing different things. So what do we know about blended learning? And so that has been a quick shift, and we have had to do a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of making sure we're aware of all the different models and possibilities and how to approach this in a way that is really good for kids and doable for teachers and doable for families. And so we're pivoting just like everybody else, trying to make sure that we are responsive to the needs of teachers and families, and really, really focusing in, again, like everybody said, on the social emotional learning, because it starts with relationships. We have to build the trust with our families and with our students, because if we don't have that, the learning isn't going to occur. It's Maslow's hierarchy, right? You have to have those basic needs met, and they need to feel safe. So
Anybody else want to jump in? I know all your roles are different this year. I know mine is.
My role has really been, and it's a new role for me this year, has been about kind of being a liaison between different entities, because I'm the testing coordinator. So for example, a high school teacher, excellent backwards planner, 2 weeks ago said, okay, Brad, when are we having end of course exams? Because I need to align my syllabus with that. And my answer was TBD, I don't know. And just in different guidance from different parties and everyone trying to do their best to comply with the rules in a changing situation, you know, we've gone back and forth on how we should do WIDA screening for our English learners. And right now, I feel like my role is just communicating as clearly as I can where we stand on each test, what's been waived, what hasn't been waived. And, you know, people are nervous. There's high school seniors who are saying, well, what about the ACT, mister? What's that going to look like? When am I going to take it? And all I can say is the dates are scheduled here, but we're still waiting on what's going to happen. Some schools waived ACT, for example, last year. Some students weren't required to have that Nevada requirement of participating in the ACT last year. Every cohort, every situation is different. So I feel my role is just right now double checking and kind of having 6 plans, because I just don't know what's going to happen, right? And at the end of the day, it's all going to work out. It doesn't matter. We'll make a plan, we'll decide it, we'll go with it, and it's like a road trip. You know, you don't really know where you're going to make that left turn, if the bridge is going to be out. You have to adapt and deal with it as you go. And I think it's important for us just to remember it's human. We're all in the situation, and, you know, they can't require something that's impossible. So we'll just deal with it as we go.
So echoing kind of what the other educators in the room are saying. So like my role as a school counselor, like pre-COVID, I would drive to my school and I would say, I'm going to accomplish these 5 things on my list. And then I get to work, and then a student's waiting on me to talk about something, and then a parent, and then an administrator stops by my office, and a teacher stops by my office. And then, and then it's 2 hours later, and then I'm gonna, check my emails. And so my day was always filled with unpredictable moments. But I think that going into this year, my day looks different. I'm not in my school building. I'm not in my physical office. And so I'm concerned of all of the pop-ins where students would just stop by my office and drop by. Those aren't going to necessarily happen or look the same. So a pop-in might be an email. But who's to say that the kid is going to email me versus before, when they would just stop by, or just the positive stop bys, just, I just wanted to stop by and say hello, and so different things. The year looks very different. Everything is heavy on the email, Google Meet. We're having to think about how are we going to do our academic planning sessions, where we would typically have all of the seniors come to a room at a designated time, and we would meet with them and do a formal presentation and all of these things. And now, so we're looking into, where students would book a one-on-one session with us through Google Meet. And so just stuff is having to be innovative and creative in the way that we're doing it. And then, the simplest things like the forms that we use to submit for an administrative signature, well, we got to come up with a new way to do that form. And so, we've had to, adapt. I'm do we have a form for this, or are we going to do a Google form, or is there a form like a PDF? Just the littlest things with documents we're having to rethink. And so many things are shifting. And so I'm even calling some of my school counseling friends and saying, okay, what is your school doing for this? And what is your school doing for that? And then kind of, integrating some of those ideas back into my own school. So everything has shifted more than ever.
Big and little. I love that. Go ahead, Deanne.
I've heard everybody say the word adapt, talking about shift and all these changes. And I think last year was just kind of a wash, right? Because we were thrown into what was happening, and nobody was prepared mentally, physically, anything. We're all just in survival mode, getting through it, doing the best that we could with what we had. And now we've had some time to step back and say, okay, so now we know there is a way to do this. We have models out there, like Brad's already talking about. I mean, the school already has a model of what this could look like in order to be successful. I went to school. Today's kind of the first day, maybe yesterday and today. So I've been back now for 5, 7, this is my 8th day back in the classroom, still no kids yet. And it was today that I realized that while I've been thinking about my kids who are coming to school, because I have kids who are coming to school, I have kids who are staying home, and I'm doing both of those. So in some schools, there's a distance learning teacher assigned to the distance learning kids. Our school is so small, we're just keeping our own grade level kids. And I think for me, the biggest shift that's happening in my mind is I didn't really even worry about my in-school kids because it's in school. And then I got there and it was like, but this is not even in school. That model in itself, I can't even, it's the paradigm of the brick and mortar that we have to move past. This idea that because I'm in this school, these are the way things have to be. And I've watched teachers this week spend a lot of time doing bulletin boards and clean up around their room and getting ready for anchor charts and all this kinds of really empowerful teaching strategies that we use in the classroom. And I'm thinking the whole time, how am I going to use an anchor chart when half my kids are here and half my kids aren't? Because the purpose of an anchor chart is that you have access to it after we do it. So how am I going to make those resources available to my kids who can't see them in the classroom? And that shift, I think, has been the biggest one for me, is how do we really create this equity that we keep talking about, whether it's distance learning or kids in my classroom. How do I create that equity so that you don't get less because you're at home? And the expectation isn't that your parent does more. My job is to carry the load. My job is to be the teacher. And I'm having to redefine what that looks like. And today it was just like a slap in the face as I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, the structure of school itself is making me come to school to plan for instruction that will not be happening in school. And so this physical environment can, like you said, it's Lashawn, is that correct?
Yeah.
Lashawn? Like Lashawn is talking, his physical environment of school can dictate that his schedule just, whoop, you know, right out the window 5 minutes into the day. Whereas now we have a little bit more control over what that looks like. And I think that is the shift that many teachers will make, and we'll all make that at different times. And it's a very scary idea that everything I know to be good, I'm really going to have to adapt. I'm going to have to change it. I'm going to have to adjust it. And that's where parents, I think, also need to be gentle with us as we learn. All of us want to learn. All of us want to provide the best we can for our kids every single day. We go there giving everything we've got. And for some of us, this is a complete learning curve. It's really gonna throw us off the horse, and we're gonna have to get back on. So, but I think that's important too, is I actually started to think about the way I'm going to teach my distance kids. That's the way I'm going to teach my in-class kids, because I can't do both. So something has to give in order for everybody to get the best of me.
And I think what's interesting about that, Deanne, is the fact that, I don't mean to throw another wrench in your thinking there, but the fluidity of an outbreak happening, all the kids going home, it abating and coming back, and there's a possibility of kids coming in and out, in and out, in and out. You also have those kids whose parents have opted for distance learning, that might feel like, okay, I think maybe I'll send my child to school, and then they come. I mean,
yes,
it can continue over the year, and probably will continue over the year to be fluid. And yes, we all need to be giving teachers, students, and families a lot of grace this year.
And that's hard to understand how that's going to look, because every school is going to be different based on, you know, if you're in Northern Nevada with Connie and you're going every other day, and then all of a sudden we go 100% distance, now you're every day. And so how do those schedules impact students as well in their home environments, when we want them to create schedules that make it conducive to their learning? And now that whole thing is a whole nother, I mean, it might have been Brad that just said this ripple effect. It's just constantly, there's always going to be something that's going to be thrown in there, like the wrench, Jordana, and we're going to have to restructure again almost on a daily basis for a while.
Deanne, you just said something so important about how all of these changes. And I think that is super important that we remember as much consistency and as much as a predictable schedule that we can is so important. And it may look different, but even at, if say you teach reading, and then after reading you do math, and right, even if we just can maintain that kind of structure for when you're, I say off-site learning, right? What is that going to look like, and how can we just create those structures and that sense of routine and consistency so that you have something to hold on to, whether you're on-site or off-site, or, you know, how we're being fluid.
And then really being able to connect with what is happening for students on their end, and making sure we are aware what that looks like for them. And I know, Lashawn, you've probably thought about this with the model, and Michelle as well, that we're having down here in Clark County, where if you've got multiple children at home, I've got 3, 1 in each band, elementary, middle, and high school, and they all have their different schedules of when they have to be online live and what's, what keeping up with all the assignments, and just really thinking about as a teacher when you're delivering instruction, what really is happening at home. If they miss a day at school, if you guys up north, you've got days where they come in, what does an absence look like now, in school, and how do they make that? I mean, there's just so many moving parts to constantly be thinking about from our end and from family's end. It can really make your brain crazy, makes mine crazy.
But at the same time, I think this is a tremendous opportunity for us to initiate a lot of changes. How many times have we tried to help a colleague who has been stuck on that PowerPoint for the past 15 years because it's just so good and it just doesn't work anymore? And, I was thinking about, my old school, a high school. Is it really normal that I have to police students going to the bathroom and stopping them? And do we really have to sit down in a desk for 7 hours to learn? Is that really what the world's going to look like? I think this is such a powerful opportunity for us to transform education and make it more real, more applicable, but also for us as teachers, think about the uncertainty and the anxiety we all have expressed. What about our students who don't know where they're sleeping that night? Our students who are transient, our students who are new to the country or are facing some sort of emotional struggle. This gives us a chance not to just say SEL, but to focus on what it is to be human and to struggle. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity. And I think we have to look at it that way to keep it going. I mean, it is mind-boggling. I mean, on all of the test dates, I just put expected test date. Please keep, because it's just going to, it might change. It might not. I don't know. And there's a more professional way to say that, but I think it's better just to be human. Like, we'll figure it out.
I think what you said, Brad, is so profound, because we even have an opportunity to look inside of students' homes, when they're logging online and we're having those live sessions. Like, this is the time, I mean, it's just incredible, like how much access we have to families right now. I understand, we're still working on equity and making sure all students have access to technology. But those of us that, the students that do have access, it's like a magnifying glass into everything my kids go through. And we can build relationships and they'll learn, they'll start learning from us because they'll start knowing that we care more. I mean, it's just weird because we're so removed from each other, but also I remember this from like I guess it was the 2000s when they had those Yahoo chat rooms. Like, I made some really good friends, like people I'd never met, in person. And I was able to kind of share, more with them, and I looked forward to seeing them. So I just hope we as a teaching culture, like some of my teachers are trying to find ways to get inside the classroom and record, film a traditional lesson and just post it. I hope we can go beyond that and really engage with all the resources that distance learning has to offer.
Yeah, I so appreciate what you said, Brad. I mean, what an opportunity to embrace the possibilities and really shift education in a way that we've been doing it this way for a long time. It's that PowerPoint, right? Like, let's pivot and make the best of this, because that's what we do, right? I mean, that's what educators are notorious for. So thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't know if it's just this room full of educators we have here, or if this is that I would love to get with so many more teachers of the state and see when they get together if they have conversations like this. But I am once again floored by being around amazing teachers and just seeing in the midst of all of this, as we're just beginning to embark in the school year. And I know teachers are so full of anxiety, but you guys are so hopeful and so positive. And It just reminds me that this is why I'm in education, and I will move to my next question, but I had to say that. So thinking about all these things that we've been talking about, what support can parents give? What can we ask of parents to how can they support us so that we can make sure, or really what do they need, you know, so that we can make sure that we're giving their kids the best? Like, what, if you were to ask a parent, this is really what I need you to do so that I can help your student the best, what would that be?
Be positive. So even if you are livid with whatever your district has decided, like, have that meltdown and then come in and sell it to your child. You know, I mean, if that's the way that it has to be, just be as positive as you possibly can, because they pick up on so much, way more than we give them credit for.
I think it would be in the same vein of be positive, but this whole notion of falling behind or being ahead, this is some arbitrary sort of path we created. Everyone's path is different. Everyone acquires, for example, sounds in a slightly different way. There's kind of typical patterns that emerge, you know, but, you know, some people are going to bloom a little later. Some people are going to bloom earlier. And, you know, kids are like, since when have we talked about 1918 in such a relevant way? You know, when have kids are learning things about like virology and microbiology, because it's just all over the news. And, you know, they're getting ahead in so many other ways. And this is such a great time to be with your family and to really reinvest parents in the education process. So I think it's important that, like, we just consider we're not getting behind, we're shifting. You know, there's this where, well, oh, my kid's going to be behind. I guarantee you your kid is not going to have as much knowledge about virology or immunobiology or how do vaccines work. I mean, everybody has heard the word vaccine now, even like 6 and 7 year olds. Like, when's the vaccine coming, Mom? So, you know, there's ways they're going to be ahead. And I think it's important to think not just for your kid, not to be behind or ahead, but we like to put ourselves on this like developing path, like that's the one way. But really, you know, plants grow in whatever way they grow. And I think that's what I would ask parents is just let your kid grow the way they're going to grow and support them, give them the water and the light that you can. And, you know, plants are going to find water somewhere. Just have some faith.
So I'll chime in, and that's such a tough question that I've really been trying to think of an answer for. But as a parent, Brad, to a son who's going into 2nd grade, I have said as an educator, my kid is going to fall behind, you know, and, you know, I'm like, he's not getting the instruction that he would have gotten. He's not, you know, being around peers and learning from them that he would have gotten. And so I, as a parent and an educator, am saying those things. But I'm also reminding myself that we are living through a global pandemic. And that is far more important. My health and my children's health and well-being is far more important than falling behind. Because 5 years from now, I will, you know, hopefully say, you know, we survived a pandemic. We went through a pandemic. And my family is safe and healthy. And so I would say to parents that learning will look different and that's okay. And so as the educator and parent, I'm gonna have to realize that learning will look different. It isn't this traditional way that it's been going for the past however long we've been doing this system. This is something different. This is something innovative. And just as an educator, seeing what educators are doing in my own building, seeing what all of my friends who are educators are doing, I'm seeing the level of collaboration that is just being exposed at a whole new level. The level of I'm doing this, I'm building this canvas. Does anyone know how to do this? Does anyone know how to do that? Like, just so many people jumping in to assist. And it's amazing. It's amazing that in spite of a global pandemic, in spite of not being in our normal traditional routine, educators are rolling up their sleeves and assisting our students, our families, and each other. I was just talking to a friend. She is a parent. She's a former educator. She now works in higher education, but she has Canvas knowledge and background, and she has, offered her services up for educators and is having these video conferencing sessions to teach teachers how to build modules and put things into Canvas. And I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, what is happening, what I am seeing, like nationwide at a national level and at a local level is amazing. And so learning is going to look different. And I always like to say at the end of the day, we're going to be okay.
I just want to clarify, I'm also a parent, and I was guilty of the same thing. My son's in college, and I'm like, he's going to get behind and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? He has grown and learned so many things, and he appreciates things now in a different way. But it's hard to feel that you're not behind, and I think it's just a natural thing. So yeah, I'm guilty of it, even though I gave that whole speech. It's human nature.
Love the honesty. And I want parents to know that we are, as parents, are kind of saying the same thing. And that's okay. We're in this too, literally.
I just want parents to self-advocate and to communicate with us as much as possible. If your student, if your child doesn't understand how to do something, email, call, just reach out to all those different communication resources that we're pushing out. Don't just, be by yourself, because we are here and we have lots of time to assist. I think that's another thing. I was a teacher in the classroom last year, moving into more of a different role. As a teacher, I was moving around constantly. I didn't have a minute to sit down. I didn't have a minute. I couldn't do anything. I was helping kids. The bell was ringing. I didn't even have time for lunch, really. But now in this distance learning kind of remote teaming atmosphere, email comes up, I can respond. And I would also say parents demand, self-advocate and demand a response. And know that all of us we're kind of building the plane as we're flying it, but it's opening up a lot of advantages, a lot of advantages for customization, personalization, getting in touch with us, just all that stuff. I'm trying not to talk too much. I know I'm kind of talking a lot, but advocate for your student, communicate. And this time might actually be better than we think.
I will say too that when we think about the 1918 flu, nobody's talking about, and my kid didn't learn his ABCs on time. Like, everybody was just, we look back and know that everybody's just grateful that they survived it. And so it's really important to put that in perspective. Having 3 kids at home, I think I'm the opposite. I'm like, everybody's the same behind, so we're all equal. Like, maybe to a fault of like not I don't know. I just that wasn't my biggest concern as much as the social aspect of it. That's really where my kids are. Even my high school kid, I knew it was all over when my high school kid was like, "Mom, I want to go back to school," and I about fell over. Like, woo, school is important to him. That's great. So you know, everything's in your own perspective, I think. Michelle, I love your point about reminding parents to advocate, because especially down here in Southern Nevada, everybody knows our class sizes are insane, and it can be very easy for a quiet student to not get the attention they need, not to the fault of anybody not caring. It can be very hard to keep up with everybody. So I would second what Michelle said about please reach out. Teachers do have time to check emails, and they will, and you know, make sure that if your child is not getting what they need, reach out, because it's not because the educator isn't caring. They just don't know for whatever reason. Anybody else want to pipe into that?
Well, I agree, Jordana, along with Michelle too. I think it's really important that parents take the time to just ask the question, because sometimes it's a question we haven't even thought of yet. So we don't even know there's an answer, because we don't have kids in front of us to read body language, to see their emotions, because they're distant from us, even on the Zoom, or even when they're doing their work. And I think that, coupled with, if as a parent, staying connected to the teacher and understanding and asking those questions, you'll have less chance of falling behind. As educators, we are under the gun all the time. The assessments are coming, the assessments are coming, the assessments are coming. And so all of us start out initially thinking, how do we get to the curriculum quicker? You know, how can I get my distance learning started so that I can because I want kids to learn. And so as educators, it's always going to be about making sure we provide what we need to provide to keep kids moving forward. And as parents, we just need the help. We need you to make sure that they're logging on and doing the work. We need you to make sure that they're connecting with the teacher when they're supposed to in the conference calls. Make sure that they're engaging in those conversations. Setting up a place for them in their home as a school corner, a place where they can keep their stuff safe from little brothers and little sisters and older brothers and older sisters. And especially if you're a family who doesn't normally have technology, and now all of a sudden you have technology because it's been provided for you. You know, make that sacred. Provide ways for your child to be successful and support what's going on. And if you don't know what that looks like, just ask. You know, just ask somebody, how can I make this the best? Well, maybe, you know, a $2 pair of headphones to block out all of the distraction around them is what they need. So we're here. We want to provide everything we can, knowing that at any moment it's all going to shift and change. And what we're putting in place is something that we can maintain, like Connie was saying earlier, that consistency of instruction to make sure. I mean, we want to make connections with families. We want to build relationships, and we want kids to learn. And so we're going to push for that, and that's what we need the support from families in.
Fantastic. I can't thank you all enough for your time. I know you're all very busy, so I greatly appreciate this hour. I hope everybody has enjoyed being with us. And with that, we will see you next time.